how to create a paper cutout sort of effect in Illustrator. You can see here I have a few different layers, and here I'll move them around so you can see. It's a little confusing to see, but there's this white layer on top. If I pull that out of the way, there's this layer and this layer, and they're all sort of going back to create an effect that looks like it's a bunch of paper with holes cut in it that's stacked on each other. This could be used for creating something like a topographical map, or this kind of reminds me of a topographical map of a lake. But there's some other really cool stuff you can do with it too. So let's get started. I'll show you how to do it. I'm going to create a new workspace. I'm just making my 3 inches by 3 inches. And the very first thing I'm going to do is draw a rectangle over the whole thing. And I'm going to use no stroke. That means no outline and no fill. We're going to be working with a few invisible shapes for this, which is a little confusing, but you'll kind of see why at the end. So I'll start off by drawing a rectangle that fills the entire workspace. And next, we're going to use the pencil tool. We haven't used the pencil tool a lot in this class, but you can make vectors with the pencil tool as well. And I'm just going to sort of draw a curvy, wavy shape. Oops, I dropped it. Let me start again. So basically, I'm just going to wander around my space, and I'm making it look wavy and curvy. And then when I get back to the start, I'll drop it. And now inside that one, without touching the edges of the previous one, I might make a similar, but a little bit different shape. And then again. And then maybe one more. Okay, so you'll notice as I draw each shape, the previous one disappears, but they're all still there. If I grab my black arrow and kind of click back, you can see them all appear. All right, now we're going to paint them in. We're going to start by painting in the most outside shape. So I'll click it, and then I'm going to go down here to this box. I'm going to double click there, and I'm going to do it with shades of blue, but you don't have to. You could do any colors you like. And I'll just sort of click here and say, okay. Now I'll click my next shape. And what I like to do is I like to start by painting the next shape the same color as the previous shape, and then making some changes. So I use this eyedropper tool to grab this color. And now this shape, it's hard to tell because it didn't really change, but this shape is now the same color. And now I'm going to use my selection tool, double click here on the fill. And what I like to do is sort of evenly spaced. I'm going to move from, this is the color we have chosen. I'm going to click here and say okay. And I'm sort of just evenly spacing it. So I'll choose that eyedropper, click this color, double click here. And again, just sort of evenly spaced jumps in my color selection area. Click. And I've got one more shape in here somewhere. Click. Eyedropper tool. Click. Double click. Click. Alright, so I've painted them all in. Click this outside shape and paint it white. Alright. Now we're going to add a new tool over to our toolbar here. And I've already added mine, so let me see if I can get rid of it and then add it back. So I'm going to go up here to the word window. We're going to add, we've used the Pathfinder tool in the past to add and subtract shapes. I'm going to bring it, we're going to actually bring it over there as a special tool. So we're going to go to window at the top and come down here to Pathfinder and click there. And then we get this. And if you want, you can just stick it onto your toolbar so that when you want to use it, it's right there. You don't have to stick it on your toolbar. You can keep it floating if you want, but I like to stick it there. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select all these shapes with our black selection tool. And oops, I'm going to just select them all like this. And then I'm going to come over here to this tool we just added. This is our Pathfinder tool. And you can see there's a few different ones here, a few different ones. Add and subtract like we've learned how to use. I'm going to go ahead and push the divide button, and then I'll show you what that does. I'll push divide. And you don't really see anything happen at first. But what it's doing is it's subtracting every shape from every other shape. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to ungroup them. I'll go to Object. Right now it's one group, so if I look under my layers, it's created one group with all these shapes. So I'm going to click them, and I'm going to go to Object and choose Ungroup, just so I can, you should do it too, but that'll better show what happens. So you can see each layer is its own separate thing where it's subtracted the outside and inside part from that shape. So I'm going to move it back to where it was. Okay, so now we're going to add some shadowing. So you can see here, it looks like it's a paper cutout because there's a shadow sort of cast from one layer to the layer below it. So let's do that. I'm going to click my outside shape to start with, and I'm going to go to Effect and Stylize and Drop Shadow. Now you can play around with these settings to get whatever effect you like, but here are the settings I'm using. I'm going to click on Preview. We've set Illustrator to work in inches for me, and I think for most of you too. So here is what I'm using. Under opacity, I have 75%. X offset is 0.2 inches. Y offset is 0.2 inches, and blur is 0.2 inches. If yours is not in inches, it's in something else, you can still come in here, type those numbers, and hit Enter. Type the IN if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now I'm going to do that to every layer. Now you're going to see it's going to look like not exactly what we were expecting, and then I'll show you how to change that afterwards. So stylize, drop shadow, OK. Next layer, effect, stylize, drop shadow, and OK. And the last one we're not going to do because it's the bottom layer. Now, this looks like a stack of paper going up instead of a stack of paper cut out going in. So we're going to change the order of everything, and then it will look different. So if I look under my layers, so you might have to expand this out. You can see a bunch of layers. We're going to actually reverse everything here. So I'm going to pull this one to the bottom. Then I'm going to pull this one, not all the way to the bottom, but just before the previous one. And we'll just keep on doing that with all of them until every layer is in the opposite order. And now you can see it looks as though it's all paper cutout going in. So that's how you do it. So you could do this. This is an interesting way of like creating a topographical map, or of a lake or something like that. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that you could do. For example, this paper cutout of mountains. You could create that using Adobe Illustrator instead of with paper. There are a few different examples if you Google that. Of different sorts of scenes that could be created that are pretty neat. So it has lots of different applications that we might try in the future.